The bar was loud that night, the kind of place where cigarette smoke curled thick and low against dim lights, where loud laughter mixed carelessly with curses, and the clink of cheap glass drowned out softer, human voices. It was a place defined by shadows and noise, where tough men wore leather and complex tattoos like armor, and where the world seemed to deliberately forget about the quiet, fragile souls who worked tirelessly behind the counter. Among them was Emily, a waitress who carried herself with a humility and a tired grace that no one in the clamor seemed to notice or cared to. She wasn't the type to draw attention, dressed simply in worn jeans and a crisp, white-buttoned shirt, her light brown hair tied back severely, her steps quick and ruthlessly efficient. Yet beneath her calm, almost indifferent face and tired smile, there was a quiet storm she carried in silence, one she had never spoken of, one that few in that bar could ever imagine. That night, when a group of heavily armored bikers rolled into the bar, the entire atmosphere shifted. The air grew immediately heavier, charged with masculine aggression. They laughed too loud, shoved too hard, and demanded instant attention like predators circling weaker prey in the open. Emily tried diligently to avoid their eyes, keeping her focus rigidly on her work, clearing bottles, wiping down the sticky counter, filling orders swiftly. But fate has a cruel way of cornering the quiet ones, forcing them into the spotlight they desperately avoid. One of them, tall and impossibly broad, with complex, dark tattoos crawling across his arms and a perpetual, cruel smirk etched into his face, grew restless. His name was Jax, and he craved conflict. He began taunting her, tossing rude insults across the counter, and deliberately trying to shake her composure. He wanted to see her flinch, to see her submission. And when Emily refused to flinch, when she met his gaze with unblinking, steady composure, his fragile pride boiled over into rage. In front of the entire, watching bar, he grabbed the front of her white shirt. With a swift, contemptuous sneer, he ripped it open, tearing the buttons and fabric apart across her chest. A sharp gasp filled the room, instantly followed by nervous, drunk laughter from the back corner. But then, something happened. What the crowd expected to see was weakness, shame, and utter vulnerability, the raw fear of a young woman humiliated. What they saw instead froze them instantly in their seats. Etched across her chest, starkly visible against her skin, was the bold, unmistakable tattoo of the United States Marine Corps emblem. The eagle, globe, and anchor. It wasn't just ink, it was a story of profound sacrifice, of battles fought in deserts and mountains, of a courage that ran deeper than any physical scar the men in that bar displayed on their leather jackets. The room went utterly silent. The sheer noise of the bar, the music, the slurred conversations, the clinking glass all died, replaced by a deep, communal silence of shock and instantaneous realization. Even the massive biker who had ripped her shirt, Jax, faltered, his large hand trembling where he still clutched the torn fabric. His cruel grin instantly faded, replaced by an expression of staggering, paralyzing shame. For in that moment, everyone realized Emily wasn't just a quiet waitress pouring cheap beer and wiping tables. She was a Marine. If you believe that arrogance must meet immediate consequence, and that honor always shines through the darkness of cruelty, then please hit that subscribe button and join our community here on Chroma Chronicles. Emily stood there, her breath steady, her eyes unblinking, fixed straight ahead. The tattoo wasn't something she flaunted, nor was it something she ever wished to be noticed for. It was a part of her, a memory burned into her skin for reasons far greater than personal pride. She had enlisted when she was barely an adult, driven not by a pursuit of glory but by a desperate, vital need to escape the cycle of poverty and despair she had been born into. Her life had been a series of silent battles long before the military, but the Marines had taken that spirit and forged it in fire and combat. She had seen things most of the men in that bar could never comprehend, friends lost in sudden combat, nights filled with freezing terror, days where survival was the only prayer whispered in the dust. When she finally returned home, she carried the deep, psychological weight of her service, working small, anonymous jobs like this one, blending into society, desperately hoping no one would ever ask about the tattoo that held more private pain than public pride. But that night, in that noisy, dark bar, the truth of her hidden life was violently laid bare for all to see. And as the profound silence spread across the room, the immense weight of her unspoken story pressed against the conscience of every man watching. They recognized the emblem, and the recognition brought a cold, sobering flood of respect and deep shame. Jax, the biker who had torn her shirt, stepped back, visibly shaken, his false, borrowed bravado crumbling under the weight of her superior, unspoken honor. He had expected to inflict humiliation, but what he had uncovered was absolute, unassailable honor, and he knew instantly that he was not worthy to stand in her silent shadow. The crowd of men behind him shifted uncomfortably, their faces now grim. Some lowered their eyes, deeply ashamed, while others fidgeted nervously as if convicted for having laughed in the first place. The truth had cut through the noise, silencing even the bravest drunkards in the room. But Emily didn't gloat. She didn't speak. She didn't deliver a heroic speech or demand an apology. She simply straightened the two halves of her torn shirt, using one hand to hold the fabric together, eyes forward, and went back to her work of wiping the bar, as if nothing profound had just happened. That quiet, unyielding dignity was louder and far more damning than any words she could have said. It was then that the regulars in the bar began to see her for the first time. To them, she was no longer just the quiet woman who poured drinks and cleared tables. She was a warrior who carried scars deeper than leather and chains, a fighter who deserved fierce respect, not contempt or pity. As the heavy silence continued, Jax turned slowly, his face white, and walked straight out of the bar without a word, his body slumping under the crushing weight of his shame. His crew quickly followed him, their departure silent and swift. The humiliation was total. If this moment of instantaneous reckoning resonated with you, and you believe in the power of hidden strength, please take a moment to share this story with friends who need to witness this truth. The story spread like wildfire through the town. People began to notice Emily in ways they never had before. Customers who once ignored her now greeted her with gratitude and respect. Strangers thanked her for her service, though she never asked for it. And slowly, those who once looked down on her realized they had been tragically blind to the immense strength she carried all along. The biker, Jax, never returned to that bar. Perhaps the shame was too heavy to bear, or perhaps the fear of facing the honor he desecrated kept him away. But those who had witnessed the moment never forgot it. In that single act, Emily had reminded them all that true strength isn't loud or violent. It's quiet, steady, and unyielding. It is the kind of power that doesn't need to be proven, only revealed. Her story is not just about one night in a bar. It is about the hidden heroes who surround us every day. We believe that honor must be recognized. Comment below what you respect most about Emily's reaction and let us know what you would have done in that silent room. The world is quick to judge, quick to laugh, and quick to dismiss those who appear ordinary. But in reality, many of the most extraordinary souls walk among us unnoticed, wearing their strength not as a weapon, but as a shield of silent, earned dignity. Emily's moment in the bar was a mirror held up to society. It showed how easily people overlook the courage of those who serve and how often we forget the silent sacrifices carried by men and women who have worn a uniform. She did not seek applause. She did not seek recognition. All she ever wanted was to live quietly and find peace in a noisy world. Yet when pushed into the spotlight, she revealed the kind of strength that could silence cruelty, awaken respect, and remind everyone that dignity can never truly be torn away. We upload new stories of honor and immediate consequence every week. Click the notification bell so you don't miss the next revelation from Chroma Chronicles. For more chronicles of unexpected justice, click on the video now showing the Guardian veteran for another story of righteousness. Thank you for witnessing this powerful story of silent honor. This is Chroma Chronicles, signing